Hello. I suggest you tie a ribbon lace. Very simple in execution, even a beginner can cope with knitting. This lace is knitted in one direction at once, that is, it can be tied in length per square meter. Lace looks beautiful, despite the fact that it is very simple in execution. It can be used as a decor, can be used as a proshba, connecting with fabric, or as a border of the bottom of the product. The drawing allows you to loop this lace into a ring. You can sew it and the pattern will be completely preserved. The lace consists of repeating fragments of the report pattern. These fragments, I repeat, one after another, are performed to the required length of the entire lace. I knitted this lace from thin cotton. In 50 grams, I have 280 meters and used a hook 0.75. This is how the report looks on the diagram, a fragment of this lace. The report consists of 4 rows. These 4 rows are tied, repeating one after another, until the required length of the entire lace is completed. The beginning of knitting begins with 23 air loops. You can pause the video and consider this scheme in more detail. We perform the first loop. And we will tie a chain of 23 air loops. First loop, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, ninth, 10th. A chain of 23 air loops was tied. Now we perform one cape on the hook, hold this cape and count the 7th loop. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. In the 7th loop we tie a column with one cape. In the same loop of the base, it is necessary to tie 3 more columns with one cape. We carry out the cape on the hook, we tie the second column with one cape here. After the second column, we perform one air loop, then a hook on the hook here in this loop of the base, the third column with one cape and the fourth column with one cape. Next, we perform 7 air loops, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 and count the 7th loop along the chain of air loops. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We insert the hook into the 7th loop, tie the column without a cape. Once again we perform 7 air loops, 1 cape on the hook and in the very first air loop we will tie 4 columns with 1 cape. First, we will tie the first column, then the second column, the air loop, the third column and the fourth column with 1 cape. This is how the first row turns out. To move to the next row, we perform 7 air loops. We turn the knitting to the other side, perform 1 cape on the hook, and where 1 air loop was knitted, we knit 4 columns with 1 cape on top. First, we will tie 2 columns with 1 cape, then an air loop, and here is another 3rd and 4th column. Next, 7 air loops, above the column without a cape, we tie the same column without a cape from above. Once again, 7 air loops, 1 cape on the hook, and where the air loop was knitted between the columns, we will tie 4 columns from above. First 2 columns, the first column and the second column. 1 air loop, then the third column and the fourth column. To move to the next row of 7 air loops, turn the knitting to the other side, perform 1 cape on the hook, and over the air loop we will also knit 4 columns. The first, second column, air loop, third and fourth. Then there are 7 air loops. A column without a cape, once again 7 air loops, we tie 4 columns with 1 cape over the air loop. First, second, air loop, third and fourth. To move to the next row, we also perform 7 air loops. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We turn the knitting to the other side, perform 1 cape on the hook, and also tie 4 columns. The first column with 1 cape, the second column with 1 cape, an air loop, the third column with 1 cape, and the fourth column with 1 cape. Then there are 7 air loops, a column without a cape, and now we will tie such a ring above this column without a cape on top. For this ringlet, we dial 15 air loops. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Now we close the resulting chain with a ring. We insert the hook into the very first air loop and stretch the working loop through the first loop. Now we will tie the resulting ring around 24 columns without a cape. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23 and 24. Now we tie the connecting column into the very first column without a cape. Insert the hook into the very first column, grab the working loop, stretch through this first column without a cape, then through the working loop. Now we make a connecting column into a column without a cape, which is located under this ring, then we tie 7 air loops. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1 cape on the hook, and over the air loop we will tie 4 columns. The first column, the second column, the air loop, the third column and the fourth column. This is what the report looks like, a fragment of this lace. Then we will knit the next fragment. To move to the next row, we also perform 7 air loops, turn the knitting to the other side, perform 1 cape on the hook and tie 4 columns over the air loop. First the first column, then the second column, the air loop, the third column and the fourth column. Next, 7 air loops. On the top of this ringlet, in the middle, we tie a column without a cape. Once again, 7 air loops, 1 cape on the hook, and we will tie 4 columns over the air loop. The first column, the second column, the air loop, the third column and the fourth column. Further knitting continues in exactly the same sequence. Report after report is tied until the required length of the entire lace is tied. As a result, this is what lace turns out to be. Thank you very much for your attention. I wish you creative success, obedient loops and all the best. Let's knit together.